Should you get and build Jessica alter? Short answer, probably yes. Long answer, this entire video.
It's been a while since we last met, Doctor. I'm glad there's still something I can do for you. That's right, I have changed a lot. If you could find the time, I'd love to sit down with you and catch up.
お久しぶりです、ドクター。指揮官、応答願います。こちらジェシカ、前線に到着。作戦スタンバイ。
Jessica Brinley, a feline from Victoria, who is the youngest daughter of Raytheon CEO, and a former Black Steel operator. As a consequence of her action during one of her missions, as well as her personal reasons, she has chosen to part ways with Black Steel, and is now working as a sheriff in the Colombian frontier. This sudden change is very surprising, considering Jessica was seen quite determined with her work in Black Steel. And although she has left the company, but it is believed her resignation has not yet been approved by Mr. Cliff, which means she is technically still employed by Black Steel. Anyways, her partnership with Rhodes Island hasn't completely severed. Due to the pioneering team she led, often worked closely with our company to deliver medicine and help the frontier team. And for field missions, she still has, and uses her equipment and weapons from her prior work. Despite the problems she endured, and now distancing herself from Brinley's family, we can't help but notice that Jessica seems to have been freed from her insecurity, and have become a tougher and more confident individual. Alright, Jessica, the Liberated, is our newest and the first 6-star Sentinel Defender. This archetype might sound unfamiliar by some, since there's only Liscom, and Blitz is a collab operator that not everyone has. This archetype is known to have a mix of defense and offense abilities, with an occasional crowd control. They have a range like an instructor. Should be useful for plenty of situations like reaching a target that other units can't. Or maybe put them behind another unit, or in Jessica's case, behind her unique shield. And this archetype is also the only defender that can attack aerial units in their normal state. And being a 6-star, Jessica is also very flexible, with stronger abilities than her peers. Moving on, this is her stats. I don't consider 23 cost to be expensive, but could be a problem if you plan to use her in some challenge stages, notably in episode 12. She also got a tanky stats with 700 plus defense and more than 3k HP at full level. Or in Colombian unit, that means she could survive Londinium cannon at level E240 plus, with an attack stat that is higher than 6-star Guardian or Protector. But compared to other defenders who also have good offensive abilities, her stat is lower than theirs. But of course let's just not stop at her stats. Then this is her talent. Talent 1 makes her very unique when compared to other defenders. This will allow her to deploy a shield on her 4 surrounding tiles, to act as a blocker or bait. This is the stats of that shield, and there's no limit on how many times you can deploy it. It is very useful when there's an enemy wave and Jessica can't block all of the enemy alone. Or when the enemy is too dangerous to be blocked by her. This shield also has a bigger aggro, and ranged enemies will most likely attack it. Another unique thing is that when you deploy the shield, Jessica will also change her direction towards where the shield is. It will only last until the shield is gone, but I'm sure it is useful for some situations. Additionally, when the shield is on the field, it gives Jessica and someone behind her a defense buff. As for talent 2, something like Lim. When the shield is attacked, it has a chance to give Jessica an SP. Some of her skills have a pretty big cost, and her shield might last longer than her skill, so this is certainly useful to boost her SP charge. Just pray you don't lose the 50-50. Now let's see her potential upgrade. Well, pretty much like most, I think she's fine without extra potential. Then this is her module. It's not global yet, but it should be released during Siege 2nd collaboration. Too bad it's still far away, because I find her base module quite useful. She and all other sentinels currently have the X module, which will reveal enemy invisibility when they are in range. And for Jessica, it also increases her HP, attack and defense. As for the upgrade, it enhances her first talent, giving the shield more stats and longer duration on each level. This module certainly adds a unique and useful ability to her. I think it's still not as important as Merchant or Duelist, but it is still a worthy module to unlock for that invisible reveal and extra stats. And just in case that invisible target is out of her normal attack range. Luckily 2 of her skills do extend her range. And for the upgrade, her shield is an important aspect of her, especially when facing a dangerous enemy. So you might want to consider upgrading it to stage 2 at the very least. Alrighty, let's talk skills. Skill 1 will permanently boost her attack, as well as defense for both Jessica and the shield. Furthermore, the shield will now last much longer. But this skill has a very expensive cost, 90 at level 7, and 70 at M3. So if you want to use this fast, you'll need to deploy her early or use SP support. Usually this is not a favorite skill for many, due to the other skills offer more damage and defense utility. But this one still could be useful for AFK gameplay, or you really need her shield to last longer with a little bit more defense. Now let's see skill 2. Jessica will whip out her rifle and unload the whole mag to the enemy. This skill will expand her range to something like a spread shooter. Increases her attack, with a significantly lower attack interval. The DPS from this skill is high, able to clear out low to medium defense targets with ease. But without any outside buff, it struggles against high defense targets. And compared to her other skills, this one doesn't have any defense boost, or add something to her shield. But instead Jessica got a 75% dodge against physical and arts. The dodge chance is quite high, so you can safely assume it will active most of the time. The arts dodge also means this is her only skill that offers protection against arts damage, something that most defender like her struggle with. Last but not least, her skill 3, an ammo type skill, very flexible. It increases her interval slightly, but she gains a big attack buff, and some defense. Also even more defense for her shield. Additionally, she will fire her cannon once whenever her shield is present, dealing high critical damage, as well as a long stun. And don't get confused with what I said earlier, she can fire her cannon multiple times in a single skill activation, as long as she still has ammo. Simply retreat and or deploy her shield again, and she will fire her cannon once more. Normally, if she keeps on attacking, you can make her fire her cannon twice, or more as long as she still has ammo. The cannon and the attack buff she got makes Jessica able to handle some of the high defense targets, with a useful stun that can be triggered at will. And don't forget the extra defense to her and her shield could make her withstand even more dangerous physical attacks. Okay, let's see which of her skills is best to master. For general usage you'll most likely use her S3, the mastery gain is also good, with increasing more stats, reducing cost and increasing initial SP. Sadly no ammo increase. The second option is of course S2, although it loses big time against higher defense targets, but it still offers good DPS against low defense 1. Not to mention the wider range could be more useful than skill 3. And if you're wondering, the mastery doesn't increase the dodge chance. It is already 75% even at level 1. Skill 1 is pretty much a skip, but if you find yourself using it often, the mastery is not straight up bad. As for base skill, when in the trading post, efficiency will be increased by 10%, and order limit by 4. And when in the control center, her own moral reduction will be increased. However, for every black steel operator in the factory, increase productivity by 5%. So ladies and gents, should you get and build Jessica, the Liberated? A flexible defender with kit to cover plenty of situations. both tanky and enough firepower to stand out among other units. Useful for story content and famously for IS mode where versatile units tend to shine. For long-time players, her flexibility as well as S3 stun might prove useful for you. Though others who need an operator who is more specialized in one category might find her quite unnecessary. As for new players, she's a solid option to have. She is a blocker with tanky stats, unique shield to add additional defense, high dodge chance that can be obtained even at Elite 1. And also some nice DPS from skill 2, that should be able to cut down early chapters enemies quite easily. And you will get more at Elite 2, such as that skill 3, and in the future that invisible reveal through her module. So what are you waiting for? Grab your Orundum, and get this not so sad cat anymore. That should be all. Adios.